Everyone say bye to Paul. Bye, Paul. Everyone say fuck you, Paul. If you've listened to the previous episode, you'll know why we're swearing at Paul. Oh. We got stood up by Santa Claus, didn't we?
Yep.
Father Christmas wasn't interested in coming to a podcast recording. Only, get this, prioritises children. Unbelievable.
You're pretty much a child, aren't you?
Yeah.
But no, we've got better. We've got better in the house. Way better.
Right, we're all set, yeah?
Yes.
We're going.
So, who are we, Sam?
We are another idea. Another idea. That's who we are.
Oh my days. It's like he's doing this for the first time. No, we are another
Well, I
idea.
normally ask you, don't I? Yeah, we're a podcast for
creatives and entrepreneurs.
They just want to level up their business, don't they?
Yeah, boom.
Want to get better, improve. They want to be inspired. They want to feel creative. They want to just listen to a few guys, just have a chat around business, experience, journeys, whatever it might be, with the idea that might just take some ideas away.
Yeah, and what should people do?
Oh, they need to clickety thing. Yeah, is that it? They need to do the clickety thing. They need to share the shit out of it. That's what they need to do, because it costs them nothing to listen to this. So just give us a shout out. Just tag us, put it on your stories. Do you know what? Actually, in the stats we had from Spotify, the one thing that really struck me was the amount of people that share it on like WhatsApp. You noticed that? Yeah, it's just not. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, send it to some of your mates. Anything else you want to talk about on that one?
No, I just want to dive in.
48 countries, Igor. 48 countries people listen to us in.
Yeah. What was the other stats? Number 11.
Peaked at number 11 in the business chart, I think, or entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Don't know. It might have only been for a day. I don't know, but still, it's it just shows we're on the right path, doesn't it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
And today we've got, as our previous guest said, we've got Mr. Philip fucking White in the house.
What an intro.
Was that all right, Kat? We've also got an audience here today. So, are you all having a good day, guys? Everything okay? Yeah? I mean, they didn't sound too enthused.
No. Just ask again.
There isn't that food coma that
that's
kicked in there,
they had a bit of pizza, had a bit of Prosecco, and they just kind of like just...
Is it different if you ask it?
Hey guys, how you doing? I think it's you. It's definitely different. But no, seriously, it's amazing to have the amazing Philip White here.
Thank you.
In the studio. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. And yeah, we cannot wait to dive in with you. So how are you?
I'm good. This is pretty scary. It's horrible, in fact.
Just eyes this way, Phil. Eyes this way.
I want to use these guys as some kind of comfort blanket.
Yeah, that's fine.
More than the comfort blanket of what's
a couple of beers that you've had. I should say for the audience, for the people listening, that we have an audience here, and we are having like a Christmas party. So Phil hasn't just had a couple of beers because he's just feeling like he needs to take the edge off. He's had a couple of beers because I've bought beers, and we've had some Prosecco, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's not as nice as champagne.
Yeah.
So great to have you here. Really enjoyed chatting to you already. I'm like, we've been chatting. I'm like, I don't want to talk to you too much because I want to just make sure we kind of cover things on the pod. But good to see you. We've worked together a few times, I think, over the previous years, and then
I was trying to work it out before.
I've not seen you for a good couple of years. I think that COVID thing happened since I last saw you.
Yeah. I think we've done 2, maybe 3,
2 or 3.
We have.
Have you worked? Have you worked together, Igor?
No. It's going to happen.
Meant to be.
It's going to happen. It'll be way better than Sam's.
Yeah, we've had experiences, haven't we?
Yeah. How's business been?
Really good. After everything that's gone on, grateful to be kind of still doing it, but navigated our way through the whole kind of COVID thing successfully, I hope.
You're here and you're still a videographer,
it's still a business, and looking forward to next year. And I've not got 100 weddings booked in, which many people kind of post COVID have.
But I've definitely heard some stories.
Yeah.
For those people that don't know who Philip White is, what's your background?
I go to weddings and I press a button. Sometimes
there you go.
Sometimes about 350 times. Sometimes a few thousand, maybe. Yeah.
Because you kind of position yourself really as a wedding videographer, didn't you? But you've kind of moved quite notably over the last year or two into kind of being a bit of a hybrid between photo and
but I think that's just
video.
Instagram in terms of like, I always say you could video a wedding and you come away with one piece of content, maybe, if it was a good wedding or if it's the kind of wedding that you want to put out there. But you can photograph a wedding and come out with like 400 pieces of content. So that's enough to last you like an entire year. And it doesn't even matter if it wasn't the kind of wedding that you want to necessarily put out there. You may get a cool shot of like something in the corner. And that's enough to kind of give you that content for one day. So I think that's where I've not just waited and gone, I'll post a film every 6 months. I'll try and do it a little bit more regularly, but yeah, I've been brave with it. I hate social media, but I've been.
Well, I think one of mine and Igor's first points on conversation yesterday was, it's hard to find much out about Phil, isn't it?
He's an elusive guy, and you said, what was the word?
Enigma.
The enigma.
The enigma of Philip White.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't.
Is it intentional?
Yeah. I'd love to be that person, but it's just wrong, isn't it? And you see it happening more and more and more with stupid fucking TikTok videos and everything. And
I can't see you dancing around on the screen, if I'm honest.
No.
And pointing at things.
Yeah, I mean,
the world would be pretty messed up if the day comes when Philip White's doing hey, I'm this age.
But then I've said that about everything. I think I said that about Instagram. I said it about drones. I put a thing on Facebook. I've not been on Facebook for years, and I put a thing on Facebook years ago, and I said, if anyone ever sees me flying one of those stupid fucking helicopter things, you can shoot me. And I think the one time...
Was that your Sir Steve Redgrave moment?
Yeah. And then the one time I did it, like, someone kind of called me out on it. But then it's like, it's kind of... People will book you based on that. They may not be the right kind of clients, but that is the thing that people go, you offer drone? You're like, depends. And like, if you offer drone, then we'll give you the job. You don't need to show the drone, but yeah. So I've kind of bought into that a little bit, maybe. I'm flying, being in control of something flying in the air is cool, right? Like, I don't care.
It gets your heart going, doesn't it?
Gets your heart going. I'm the worst. Like I don't want this to be like a drone kind of like thing, because
no.
Like I said, I hate drones, but I just literally I'm like this. Like it's
don't crash it, don't crash it.
And then someone from a hotel will come over and start screaming at you in another language, and you're like,
you know what?
It's just horrible.
I've had that. It wasn't for me. It was actually the videographer, but we were in Cannes, and we were shooting at this beautiful, beautiful hotel, and and suddenly the hotel manager just literally comes to the wedding party and says, "Whose is that?" literally thick French accent, and I just like made a beeline. I don't want to know anything about it. It was the videographers, and literally one of the guests was in the balcony, and he was.
I mean, Igor's building this up right now, isn't he?
The guy was in the balcony.
Do I need a laugh card? Do I need to hold a laugh card?
Comes out naked to his balcony, sees the drone, and just complains to the manager. And the manager just comes running down. No, we cannot do that. We cannot.
Everybody laugh.
But yeah,
oh, Igor!
If you were there, it was funny.
Let's just rewind the clock a little bit. Let's go back to before Philip White became a videographer and started working in the wedding industry. Actually, one of the first things I found when I was Googling Philip White was that it was a 100-year-old Crystal Palace fan. That isn't you, is it?
No, this is the Tyres guy as well.
Oh, he's a Tyres guy.
Yeah. The guy who's got the .com domain as well. He's a photographer, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Riding your coattails.
Riding, yeah. But
what happened post school for Philip White? What was your kind of journey from sort of leaving the educational system to becoming a really established high-end wedding videographer?
I don't know. I'll tell you, but it's I was a taxman.
Boo.
kind of.
It's
amazing. It was like my first proper job, and only kind of proper job, really.
Right. Straight out of school.
Pretty much, yeah. No, we've done everything in reverse, and like we kind of straight out of school had kids, like super young.
You're saying your eldest is 23, which like for me is just blows my mind that you've got a 23-year-old daughter.
It's a complete other story, but and it's amazing. But yeah, so kind of came out of school, got like an office job, rose kind of quite quickly through the ranks of that, really, until like the next level was like inspector. But then they kind of realized that I didn't actually know anything about tax. Like that was the thing. Like I was doing like IT and other things, and then my wife came and worked like in the same building, and we just, I think she came in and did like 7 a.m. till midday, and then we'd like pass like the baby over at like the door of the office building. Then I'd go in and work till like 9 o'clock and do the rest of it. And I kind of always think about it now in the sense of I would never give up like a civil service job with a pension, both of us. And I think that's the case. Like the older you get with everything, like you don't make those, it's harder to make those kind of scary decisions. And I think for us, we made the biggest and the best kind of scariest decisions like early on while we were young. So I just give it up and was like, I'm going to work for myself. Like fuck the pension and everything else. And so did it. And then pretty much the same as everybody else, just kind of maybe shot for like a friend, their wedding, and then just
how old are you at this point?
About 2, about 7. No, 20s, like early 20s.
Okay,
definitely, I think. Yeah, maybe. And yeah, I think what I did, I did like a few years of photographing weddings. I didn't really know kind of what I was doing, and I don't know, you're looking at it and you're going, yeah, this is good. How do I get better and whatever else? And then kind of seeing this wave of like videos come over from the States with like the 5D Mark II, the Canon, and was blown away to an extent that I could never be blown away by anything like that again. Like when you're a teenager and you hear like a certain band and it's like, oh my God, this is like what I'm going to like, there's just a feeling about doing that and being like young. And I just remember seeing this stuff and being like, that's incredible.
It was revolutionary.
Yeah. Like how do you do that? And there's guys from America and a couple of guys from the UK, and like looking at it and really thinking that it was a science. Mm-hmm. Like how do you weave all this stuff together? And I kind of think now, I'm like, oh, it's not a science. Like I look back at the same stuff and be like, nah, like whatever. But was so into it, and I was like, I have to do that. I was like, I don't have the gear, and so you gradually get like bits and bits and bits, and took a lot of like bold choices early on. So that's probably a big kind of like takeaway. I remember figuring out that every time you did something a little bit braver, you'd get some kind of like, you get more credit from it or whatever. So I remember like right at the very start, we used like a dance track on a film, and I know other guys who've done this as well. I won't name them because they don't want the whole Cheryl Cole soundtrack kind of listed, but I did a thing and like it was, we put this dance track on and it got picked up by someone, and then it got on a blog, and then you suddenly start getting more inquiries, and then it kind of goes on and on and on. And I think we did like the very first Wedding Industry Awards, but to the extent that I remember being
I found a photo.
Yeah,
I found a photo of that.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And I looked at it. I was like,
"Is that Phil?
That can't be Phil."
Yeah,
I think you've got striped trousers on.
The
blazer.
I know it's amazing. Yeah, genuinely.
We'll pull it all up for you in the office in a bit. Don't worry, guys.
I'm at the stage now where I like, look at this. That was me, fresh faced. But people always say about awards and whatever else, but I think never expected to do anything with it. And what I remember is that, and this was, what was it, 11 years ago now? Or, yeah, something like that. Remember looking at the other guys who made it to like the regional things and being like, this is insane. I've been doing this for like a year or two. This is absolutely insane. And thinking your work is incredible. But I look back at the same stuff now and go, that was absolutely dog shit. Like it's so bad. But just being like fascinated by it and winning that first one, that very first like Wedding Industry Awards, and just being a total shock. But then I remember if you want to sway the conversation to awards or whatever, but the years after that, the first like 3 or 4 years after that, I was obsessed by it. I was like, I want to win this again. I want to get these votes. This is the most important thing in the world. And can you do it? And then you come away from it, and it is so important. But I'm at a stage with everything now where I'm like, I still want to produce the best that I can, but I'm kind of like, none of it matters. Whether I always used to go, I want to tick that box and tick that box. And then it always happened, and you don't know kind of what, whatever it's going to be, whether it's, I used to always say whether it was like shooting for a particular person or like a camera brand or whatever, and it always seemed to happen. And I'm like, I don't know if it's just luck or whatever, or you put the right things in place. Maybe it is. Maybe you're always making those sensible decisions along the way. Maybe you're always saying, you used to always say, do you go left, do you go right? That everything you do in life, and if you make the right decision, then you may go further, whatever. But can always kind of trace everything back to like a particular decision. Which is very deep and philosophical, but I think it's really important. We spoke about the Leica thing before, and this isn't me trying to sway it up, the conversation off to it sounds like it is, but I just remembered something.
No, don't worry.
I remember I hate Instagram. I've said this, and everything I post I'll delete. Like 90% of it, like, I don't want to put that out. I can't even bring myself to write a caption because I'm like, it's not genuine. Like, I don't want to say how beautiful the bride and groom are, because everybody knows. Like, so so generally I started putting like song lyrics, and then it's like, no, whatever. But I did a thing with the hashtagging, and I shot a wedding earlier this year, and I thought, I used to always tag Leica and do a thing and be like, mainly because I was like, people are interested in the cameras that I'd be using, and I thought, I'm not going to do this again. So like, why am I doing it? But I chose a picture. I was like, this is a very Leica picture. This is not a wedding photo. This is a picture of two people in the room where the bride's getting ready, and they're playing a little game with their hands. And I remember I leant over the top of them and like did like and got this like angle from above, and I was like, I love that picture. But I never post the pictures that I love, because the pictures that I love aren't like wedding pictures. They're not bright enough, there's not enough flesh, and they're not that colourful and everything else. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it, but this will be the last time. And then I was sat there, and an hour later at the desk we got an email from Leica, and I just turned to my wife and was like, it's happened. Like, they've said, can we partner with you, and can we make this film and do whatever? And I was like, that's the big box ticked. So I was like, I love that, absolutely. But it's all down to those decisions, isn't it? And if you can think about them and trace them back to, and I can do I could probably do that for like so many things. I used to do it on the workshops of like how you get particular jobs, and a lot of it's boring like SEO stuff, but going, oh, do I put a wanky name in the title and say, like, I don't know, I think one of them, if I can remember right, I think one of them, the groom was from LA, and I was really like impressed that like they were an American couple getting ready here, so I SEO'd that as being from LA to London or something like that. But then I got an inquiry for a wedding in LA, and then something else and something else, and so you can trace like 5 weddings from one decision. And I was like, this is amazing, really. But yeah, I don't know, I just waffle.
That's amazing.
I wanted to kind of jump in on a few points there, but I was kind of Phil's on a roll.
Stop me.
Phil's on a roll. First thing, like the awards thing. Yeah. So what changed with the awards? How did you go from kind of being so pro it and focused on it to that switch going, no, I just don't care anymore? Not that you don't care, but no.
I think there was a lot. I think I recognised a lot of like the internal kind of politics of them.
Yeah,
and you can see how certain decisions are made because certain people are on judging panels, so that could be one of them. But then you also start kind of like looking at the work and going, I know that my work's better than that person, but I know that you're friends with you or whatever else, and you think maybe it's not worth kind of trying to continue to push it and push it and push it. And if you don't need it, do you need to keep kind of
going
on and on and on and on?
Especially in those early years, is almost like a level of recognition from people that you're doing the right thing and that you're on the right path. But then you kind of get to the stage where you're on the right path and you're doing well. And
but it's still really good.
It's always good to have that affirmation.
It's always good to have it, but I think it got watered down quite a bit. You could enter and put the same logo on and do different things, and I think I suggested early on, I was like, there's ways of changing it up, have a gold logo or a bronze or a silver logo and then whatever else, and then you could differentiate between whatever else. And I don't know, I think I just seen internal politics of it, but I still think it's it's such a good thing to kind of get you up and running if you're driven enough to kind of do it and play the game almost,
because it can be brutal, isn't it, putting yourself in that sort of position in terms of you're actually being judged.
but then I see the thing, we're just an industry, we're all honestly, I'm kind of we're all the same. You get to a point, you're we go to weddings, we take a camera, push a button, do whatever. So it's when you start thinking, who am I being judged by? I'm being judged by someone else who does the same thing that I'm doing. And then you start going, well, maybe I've done a bit better than them, or maybe I've not done a bit better than them. So why are they? And I think I just see it, and I'm like, I don't know whether it could just be getting old. Someone put I couldn't even tell you it was somebody put a thing online before, and it was so much spiel about being a rising star, and I was like, rising star? It's almost like saying you're all right. You're on the way up. Do you know what I mean? And it's not. I just don't know whether I'm just looking at it with you've both done them, haven't you?
Yeah. But it's part of the journey.
Yeah, but I kind of think that
I totally understand where you're coming from. It's just part of the process, isn't it? I think I always think with any kind of award system, it's look, if you win something, great, shout about it. If you don't take it to heart. Just move on, carry on. But actually, at the core of everything that you do should be the only people that are really judging you are your couples. Yeah, that's it for me. It's all about.
We spoke about it before. Authenticity is massive, but just do it and stick with it.
Yeah.
But then the argument is does that, if you're not that authentic, you probably get more jobs. You probably be where that means you're more successful.
I think for me, and literally kind of like you with TWIA really, quite early on in my career, getting a rangefinder was amazing. It was amazing because it was early on in my career.
Yeah.
So to get it now, it wouldn't mean that much really, but to get it that early on, meaning that it just propels you forward, and it gives you.
The year before me, weren't you?
Sorry,
you were the year before me, weren't you? I think 2014.
I can't remember.
You do. You've got it.
No, I really can't.
On your bedside table, haven't you, Miko?
Yeah. He put a good word in for you.
Yeah. That's what happened. It was really early on, though. It was really early on, and I was still.
Yeah.
Early on.
We're not for a second sort of downplaying anybody that has won an award. That the recent rangefinder announcement. It's if you've won it, amazing. It's an amazing achievement, and you should absolutely be shouting about it. But I suppose as you become more experienced in the industry, you start to realise that.
Awards are not everything.
It's not the be all and end all, is it?
Yeah, but go for them, kids. Go for them.
Yeah.
That's what
I think from a lot of people in the industry, they would probably see what you do as a videographer and a photographer now, and sort of say that you are you're in this position of being a really high end kind of luxury videographer that has really established themselves over the sort of.
He shot for the royal family and Oscar winners. For goodness sake.
Incredible. You can't have started out in that kind of. Market. At what point did it sort of start to kind of move into that kind of high end market?
So it's always I spoke about this probably about 3 times already today, and absolutely it is. It's what you show, right, and what you say and what you don't say, but you shoot you can shoot 60 weddings in the year, right? So you can be starting off and shoot 60 weddings in the year. The key is that you don't blog or show images or film from all of those 60 weddings, but you recognize why so many of those weddings are, it's a horrible word to use, but better than the others, or they're higher budget than the others, or the couple might be better looking than the others or whatever. But then you go, right, okay, this has got something about it, so I'm only going to put this one out. and it's just like a circle. And you can still do that. You can still go. The skill to that, I think, is recognizing it. And I'm not an expert in it in any way, shape, or form. There's people who do it a lot better than me, but it's recognizing that, okay, we said it before, this dress may have cost, you know, a couple of £1,000, which is a lot of money to some person, but then this dress may have cost like £250,000. And you put certain things out at certain times, and then the people who are looking at your work making those decisions are more likely to lean towards you than someone else, because your clients aren't photographers or videographers. Wedding planners aren't photographers. You know, they don't see the images the same as you do. So people are looking at those images and just making a general kind of assumption based on how good looking the couple are, you know, and where they are and what they're wearing, and they go, oh, that's a bit like the kind of wedding that I want, so I'll inquire to this person. And the example I gave before when I was speaking to someone was, a planner said to me years ago, I can't believe you put an image in with someone drinking a bottle of beer. And I was like, that's an incredible image. He had it balanced on his head in the party. And she went, yeah, but my couples don't drink beer. I was like,
one of my questions was that I'd heard from somebody that had been on your workshop, and you said, "Oh, Phil won't put frames of anybody drinking beer in because it's not that market."
I've just used the story loads of it.
And it kind of ties into this whole point of like what you're saying is it's about a level of curation.
Yeah, absolutely. But with video, it you don't really get the choice. You can pick certain like certain clips out. There's a lot of editing work, whatever, whereas you can shoot a wedding, photograph a wedding, and go, wow, that's just that one thing is a good shot, and use it as content. And it is nowadays, it's the content that kind of gives you the work. But that's how I've been so selective with videos. And even now, like I've always said, language and using subtitles, and you know, someone speaking in a French accent is always better than like a regional UK accent.
You have to be careful, don't you? You're thinking that, weren't you? Like, who do I say?
He said regional.
Yeah, I did well, didn't I?
Yeah.
I did well.
Got out that one okay.
Yeah, but it's true. It's true. And the north-south thing, you know, people kind of living in London, listening to any strong northern regional accent on a film can instantly dismiss the entire product based on their assumptions about what that wedding's like. And you know, beautiful weddings, beautiful people. But
which is a shame.
It is a shame. But
what you're saying actually is brutally honest. Really.
I'm going to be
I'm aware.
100%.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a really difficult subject to approach. But I think it is a shame that people do that. But people are fickle, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But it's kind of how you.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you've got to do, I suppose, if you're gonna, you know, if you're gonna do that. And I say move forward, but it's not. It kind of feels odd and feels wrong. But yeah, where there's money in weddings and higher paid weddings or whatever else, they're looking at your work and judging it. You know, they're not judging your work almost. You know, because you could have the same film, you could have the same product, but with just different accents and a different designer dress. That's it. You know, that's literally it. But
one quote I took from doing a bit of research from you was that you'd said, "I only achieved any success when I stopped caring about how other people were filming."
Maybe. Where are these things coming from?
we do homework, Phil. We do homework. But no, it's just a really standout point, because I think we've talked about it countless times in here, like this. You know, we talked about it on the previous episode with Kat and Ash about comparison and
what I think other people are filming. Yeah, it is, because you judge, you kind of compare yourself to everyone else doing it. And we've had a few conversations. Sure, we'll move on to pricing, but that's a big thing. You go, or you hear on the grapevine, you go, this person's charging X amount. So my work's better than them. I need to charge the same amount of money, and it is. You feel like you're constantly being kind of judged by everybody else, and everyone's doing the same thing. It's some people are maybe bolder than other people. We said before, you can go straight down the middle. I know like some photographers, and it's like their tagline, and they're just like, I'm straight down the middle. So it's like always just what is straight down the middle? Maybe like 80% color, 20% black and white, brightness, kind of like mainly couple shots. And that is the stuff that sells. And if you were to kind of put that out there, and it's like Instagram likes flesh and color, and you will get more engagement with flesh. That sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? But it is. Like, as opposed to a black and white image of like something pretty in the corner or something blurred or whatever. But if you post what is obvious, a couple together, and there's lots of and it's really colourful, and there's lots of flesh tones, that sells, because it's human nature and it's horrible, but they'll put that in front of more people because it's what people want to see. And I've seen it before, and I've done like little mini experiments and get drawn into kind of posting that way and go, maybe what if I just post the traditional picture, and then you see that it gets more likes and more engagement, and you think, oh, maybe I should keep doing this. But then that's where you got to tell yourself, no, just try.
What stops you doing that?
Yeah.
What stops me? Yeah, what stops you? Because I think most people would be of a mindset, I think, where they would go, all of my marketing activity needs to be about reach, and if this activity is showing me that I'm getting more engagement, more likes, more interest, then surely I need to go after that more.
I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like staying true to yourself, but then when you get the couples through who you're a perfect match, and they are on the exact same page of you, and when they go, we've looked at all this other stuff, but it's not, we want something like this, and they explain it and they point to images and go, we like this, and you think, okay, that's when it's worth it. But then that's when those couples are in the minority. Like, you're not, because like I said, people don't study photography, and people don't know exactly what they want. They just want pretty images. And I think, so when you do get kind of more artistic couples through, and they go, yeah, and then they give you free reign as well, that's when they go, right, just do your thing, do whatever you want to do. And you're like, okay, I like that. And it kind of works. And I think, I don't know, I always think that's when you're probably more likely to not run into trouble, but people want things changing with their work, or they're like, oh, I don't like this, could you put this in black and white, or have you got a shot of, the back of my dress on the floor, have you got a shot of this person and me and this person and whatever else. And I think, I don't really get that anymore. But you always get that when someone's just making that straight down the line choice of going, I just want a wedding photographer. I just want someone who's going to capture pretty images. And it's weird, and talking about kind of like progressing through pricing or whatever else, but I think what I hate is that the people who aren't paying as much money, or paying like kind of at the bottom end of the market or whatever, the people who are like really, they've saved up for that, and it means so much to them. They may be like teachers or whatever, and you think, okay, this means absolutely everything to you. But because they've saved up for years and years and years for it, they're entitled to say, actually, no, have you got a picture of this, or this detail or that detail or whatever else? And I think, and again, it's horrible and it's wrong, but then if you are getting someone who's got unlimited funds, but in the same hand, they're also saying, you do whatever you want, and you're less likely to run into those issues. Which I don't know, it's kind of like ideal situation, isn't it? That you're not getting the issues and you're getting more money. But I don't know. So it's always angling what you do to a certain place and a certain client. Bigger picture stuff, right? That's what it is. It's always being bigger picture. I know it's going.
Were you to sort of like wanting to get into the luxury market? And I know it can be very much like, people see it from afar, and again, Instagram, isn't it? Instagram has a lot to blame for that, really. But where you sort of like get into the mindset, I really would love to get into the luxury market. How would you even start if you were to do it today?
See, the thing
Can I
is,
just ask, what ISO is that camera on? Because it's really bugging me. I know I changed it when I was on there.
400.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, you know when it's on your mind. I feel
techie.
better now. Just feel better. Oh, you know, I've been sat here for like 15 minutes going. I changed that when we were on our break, and I was playing around with it.
It's all going to be in your mind, isn't it?
God, I can breathe.
Sorry, I was going to say 2000.
We sat with the videographer. You'll
it's
get
way
it.
too technical.
You'll
right?
get it.
Um,
You must have done that when you were in a church. You're like, shit, what did I put the camera on over there?
Yeah, many
When it's on your mind, it's on your mind, isn't it?
many times. It's funny you should ask that question. I don't think I'm like the luxury market because of that, because of doing things so much darker and maybe a little bit more kind of darker creative, shall we say. And I always think I could make life easier for myself, especially in terms of like working with planners. You could get more luxury gigs if you worked in a certain way, but I can't bring myself to do it, and it's so natural now that even if I pick up a camera to shoot anything, I did. I was in Italy last week, and it was one of my brides for next year. This sounds so. We were doing a venue visit, so I'd gone over to just like, she was doing a fitting and looking at the venues. So I went over.
Venue visit in Italy.
Yeah.
Anyone here done a venue visit in Italy before? No? Just doing them all the time.
So we went to the Vatican.
Of course you did, yeah.
Yeah.
Just give us more, Phil. Give us more.
I can't. I don't think I'm allowed to, but it's so good. What was I even saying? We're doing it.
You do know that if you sign an NDA for this, you have to be really careful.
Yeah, I'm the worst. Absolutely.
Phil actually did
so
say,
bad.
"Is this live?" No, it's not live,
Yeah.
but it's being recorded though, Phil.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just speak everything and blab everything, so just please be careful with me.
It's more people. I'm like that person. Yeah. What was I saying? Anyway, she's like, "Can you do some headshots for me?" I was like, "I've never done headshots." I was like, "I'll give it a go." So I did these headshots. I had to stop and say, I can't help myself, but these are going to be dark. And I put her in like kind of certain places and shot them. And she was like, "No, I trust you, it'll be fine." And they were super, super dark. But that stems back from like, they book you for a reason. They go, "We know that your pictures are like this." But the luxury market thing, I know I could, like, I think I said to you before about shooting details. You can be amazing at shooting candles and you'll get so many bookings for planners because they want shots of their candles and their tables and everything else. Whereas I could be good at shooting people, like, and being fast, and if there's certain emotions going on, or recognizing certain things, or infiltrating certain groups and taking images that way. But do they really care about that? So I know that, so going back to it, I know that there's certain things that I could do, and I know so many suppliers, video and photo, who do that, who are more luxury, but then I also look at that work and think, I don't like it. I don't like it because it's just straight down the middle, and it only looks good because it's a luxury wedding, because it's a higher price wedding. It's still the same kind of crappy shots or whatever, but because they spent X amount of money on flowers or whatever, there's no creativity in it. Anyone can put like a wide angle lens on a gimbal or whatever, or just taking pictures and just point it at like the flowers. You know, anyone can walk around and just kind of get it. And if the subject in front of you looks incredible, it's a room where they've spent £1 million on flowers, then it's going to look all right.
I mean, you'd hope so.
You would hope so, but you kind of think, sometimes you can't get something from that. Sometimes you go, okay, I can't, like, it's harder to get a creative image from that, or a still image, or a still video image. But I think that's where I'm more like honest with it. Like I'll say to the couple, I'm like, no, this isn't working. Or if you go out and do a couple shoot and they're a bit wooden, I'm like, guys, this isn't for you, is it? You know, maybe that does me kind of like, but I'm the first to say with everything, just no, we need to do something else.
I was going to ask you if you like, do you feel the pressure and stuff, but it kind of feels like you're quite comfortable in that place.
Yeah, I mean,
very self-aware.
yeah, you do with certain things and maybe time or whatever. And if you've only got like 10 minutes to shoot a certain thing, but you then whatever else just kicks in, kicks in. And if you've only got 10 minutes to do something, you just do it, that's what you do. I said to a bride last night, and it sounds like such a cliched kind of wanky thing, because I always say it, but I'm like, the photos or the film, I always feel like it's like 10% of the overall product, because I feel like you're involved so much in everything else, and you're involved in what happens like on the day and different things, and you're making decisions, and you can be the guy who's like, I've done everything. I mean, like, especially with COVID in the last couple of years, like I've been left like looking after, like in a caring role, or like I've been at weddings holding kids. Like it's the Rome thing last week. I may need to cut this, I don't know, but I was in like the planning meeting.
We don't cut them.
No. I was in like there's nothing. But I was like, I got invited into like the main planning meeting, because for the 3 days before that I was with the couple, I was just giving like sensible advice and being like, you don't need this. And you do realize that this planner is going to come over to you and try and sell you the most expensive thing because they know you've got some money. And they were like, oh, we never thought of that. Why don't you sit in with the meeting? So I suddenly went into like this
financial
like
advisor,
high level like planning role, and thinking, I wish I was planning a wedding.
He was a babysitter and financial advisor.
Yeah, like kind of doing everything. But then you think it is a lot more. I was somewhere with a guy who works with me. If I get a photo video job, I have one guy who does the videos for me and I do the photos. If it's video on its own, I do it. If it's photos on its own, I do it. But I only use one guy who I really trust and love, and we were shooting something a few months back, and he was like, there needs to be a way that you recognize your interventions during the day. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you're shooting and it's nothing. And I feel that as well. And if it, like photography especially, if you're using certain cameras, it's literally like a teenage girl. I'm just like I'm not giving any thought to kind of that. But he was basically saying there is 1,000,001 other things that you do alongside that in the day, and you're saying, why don't we go to this place? Or like basically this is like one of the most exclusive hotels in Europe, and I went in and said, this room's crap, like why are you in here? Like, you need to go somewhere else. So then we'll go and we'll find somewhere else and say, right, you can go in here and go in this place and do this and do this, and why don't you move that? Your timings for this are a bit rubbish, and or you're looking a bit sad, why don't you do you want a drink? I can do this. And like, you're doing all of this other kind of stuff throughout the day that you don't even realize you're doing, that is probably adding so much value. You hope it's adding so much value. You might just be a pain in the ass, but you're doing that and giving them images kind of at the same time. But I think especially with photography, I think maybe that's because I've done video a lot, that I do find photography easier. I think especially with the edit, but then I always felt like it was like a freedom. So I always went to, I'll get the smallest camera and like I'll make it as easy as I can. And I've took that to the extremes. I've like rocked up to shoot, like photograph a wedding with literally just like a little camera and like 2 batteries in my pocket, and been like, this is it.
I think on the few occasions I've worked with, it's been one of those things that really stood out to me very quickly, was just how stripped back you are in terms of kit.
But the first one we did, I had a big like screen. I distinctly remember everything about.
I can't remember that one. I just remember. Maybe I just remember the latter one where you just literally got a single camera.
The last one I did.
Maybe you had a monopod.
Yeah.
And
I always had a really minimal, stupid haircut when I worked with you. That's the one thing that jumps to mind. Yeah, okay. For different reasons, and I always remember thinking at the time, what's going on here?
What are we doing with your hair?
Well, the hair is beautiful today, though. Look at those waves.
Just straight down the middle. Straight down the middle.
Talking about minimal gear, I think it was one of the first few times that I heard about you, really, and I heard you tell this story before in terms of like, it was, you were shooting a wedding and you were literally just using a single monopod sort of thing, and ended up in the national news in terms of like the image itself, not Phil.
Yeah. It's always me fucking up.
Like a national newspaper, there's the couple, and there's Phil on the corner sort of thing with his minimal gear, and people just literally tearing you down because he's literally using minimal gear.
Yeah.
Why minimal gear? What makes you sort of like attracted to it? Because
I'm lazy.
no. I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're not.
It is.
Because I'm the same. So I just want to break
it down.
The
less you can bring to a day. Do you know what? It's that thing of like, just boys love stupid toys. That's the whole drone thing, don't they? And I can see the appeal of that, and I can see like the tech appeal of like, this thing does this thing, or you can bring all of this stuff. And I've done it before, like years and years and years ago. I think we had this like 19-foot crane that like these students at uni had built, and it was like, oh, amazing. And we hauled it in, and like, even on a dance floor, we had this like thing that was about the size of this room. The shots were super, but then, I don't know, you come to a point where you're just like, I don't need any of this. And I've gone kind of further and further and further. I think the story that you're on about, I had like these baby tripods, these little white mini tiny tripods that I put on a dance floor for maybe like the first dance or speeches or something. And it's a typical Facebook thing that another kind of industry like professional in America or whatever was like, I can't believe this couple, because the whole article was about how much money they'd spent on the wedding, and it was like, I can't believe this couple have hired like this amateur because they'd looked at the tripods. And then it went into like the usual big like Facebook argument between, I don't even think I got involved, but like other people. But I used them for years. I still now, I think they're still like as minimal as they can be. But I've ditched the monopod. Like even with video, I'll kind of shoot it handheld.
Get in.
I know. But I think that's taking advantage of technology with like stabilization and whatever else, and knowing that I can do it. And from a techie kind of perspective on that, you have to shoot differently. Like, kind of have to shoot slow motion, super slow motion, so you can just hold it all the time, and maybe not use like an 85, maybe strip back to like a 50 or a 35. But I'd rather do all that stuff so that I've not got the stick. I always call it the stick. I used to hate it, because you're just at a wedding with like all these like people like who are cool and like having fun, and you're at the same wedding with the
guy with a stick.
And I'm like, I don't want to carry a stick around with me all the time. So
the next time I see a video crew with a stick, I'm going to smile a little
you'll be
bit.
Like, stick. But then they go even further. They'll have like fucking big steering wheels and all kinds of stuff that they're running around with. I don't know. I can't.
You're right. Okay, you go. Is that tickled, yeah?
That was the wrong time to take a sip of water, because it was about to go everywhere.
But it is. It's boys with toys.
Sam.
So, Igor.
Studio Ninja.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about our sponsor. And I was wondering about what we need to say in this little section, because I really want to talk about just how vital it is to my business. And one thing that came up recently was, in my own business, was that I was thinking about whether I need to get a VA on board. Mm-hmm. Like, do I need somebody that's going to help me just, perform some of the admin tasks? And when I looked at it, and it really boiled down to what do I need somebody on board for, I realised that I don't actually do much admin.
Yeah.
And I don't do much admin purely because of Studio Ninja.
Yeah.
Everything's automated. Yeah, my invoices, my diary, my questionnaires that I send out.
Email templates,
chasing up invoices. Everything's fully automated to the point where it doesn't take a huge amount of my time anyway. So it kind of defeats the whole point of a VA. So for me, it is a very integral part of my business. Yeah. And I think when you're running a business, you're self-employed like we are, being efficient, being productive, making sure that things run in the right order. If you find yourself doing any kind of repeat task, you have to say to yourself, why am I repeating this?
Automate it.
And if you can automate it, then that's it. And that's really where Studio Ninja fits in with me and my business. And they have very kindly given us a discount code, haven't they, for this podcast? So what's that discount code, Igor?
Another idea. And
another idea gets you 50% off your first annual subscription.
Yeah.
So it's just a no-brainer. I mean, I wouldn't even be hanging around. Just go and look at Studio Ninja.
Just go and do it right now.
But thank you very much, guys, for sponsoring this podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. Keep it up.
We love Studio Ninja.
Same with cameras and upgrades and doing whatever, and I get it.
And it's quite easy, especially in the video world. There are so many things that you can buy. There definitely are in photo, but I think in video it's like tenfold
Yeah,
it's not all the
but it's
accessories that come
justifying.
with
It's kind of like, obviously there's new versions of things come out, and it's saying, right, okay, why is this thing giving me like value? Like, what is it? Why should I change the mics that I had like for this thing? So like I kind of, for years and years and years, I think I was the first person to use the little stick Sony microphones that you click on. And then I talked about them on the course, like the online course, and then you like can't get hold of them. And like about like a year ago,
surely you did you went on commission, didn't you? Affiliate.
It would have been like the
everything.
best thing ever, because they're just you can't get hold of them. But then I thought, okay, they are like just solid. They're okay sound, and they're still really good in like certain situations. But I was very much like, okay, how do I raise the, like, what can I do to get that better without having extra kind of gear? So I've upgraded like mics since. It means going back to like, I now got a cable that I need to stuff in people's pockets, and it's like, that's annoying. But I think there's a middle ground between it all. And if you can find the perfect solution for it, where obviously if it's super, super minimal and the quality might not be as great, I think especially with things like sound, but I bought a cinema lens like about 18 months ago, because I thought that basically I'd be the guy who does this first, just to see if this does anything. So I was like, I'm going to buy the same lens that all these movies have been shot with. And I was like, this mortgage size amount of money will make the difference to me. And so the first thing I did was I rang up the company and I was like, how do I get hold of one of these lenses? And they said, oh, we can make one for you, but it'll be ready in 2 years. I was like, okay, that's not what I want to do. So I found this like production company in London, went down, picked up this lens, and the guy kind of tried it, and it wasn't a perfect fit. That sounds really weird with my camera. It was like a difference, like it was a Super 8 lens and my full frame camera, but it worked somehow. It just about worked. And we tried a different focal lengths, and all the other focal lengths had like weird, horrible black vignetting, but my kind of the 75 that I put on, it didn't. And I took it out into the street in London, and I just pointed it at a crowd and went, fuck, that's a film, that's a movie. I was like, instantly, I was like, that is incredible. And then I suddenly realized over 3 months that the weight of it, just couldn't, instead of having a stick, I just had like a lens that was like this big. So I was like, even though it's giving me quality, when you suddenly bring it down to like Instagram size, where 90% of the people are watching it, does anyone know the difference in that? Apart from me. I was like, no, I can't do it anymore. So I think it's still, everyone tries to figure these things out, but you come up with the perfect. I'm still photographing with the same little camera I did 7 years ago. So I've not kind of changed. Like, if it's right, it's right. And I think if it's perfect, then like, don't change it.
It's so refreshing to hear that from someone kind of like you, because you started with Canon, right? And then Sony, became an ambassador.
Yeah,
and Leica became an ambassador. So you're kind of like quite prominent, really, within the industry, and still you could be here sort of like pushing, you need all the gear, you need this because this is the best, and this is what's going to get you this, but you kind of like you
don't.
anti.
I mean, that was a big thing with Sony. I mean, it's probably getting into so much trouble for it, but like literally I was getting paid to say this camera was amazing. And so one thing happened, right? I went to like a similar thing to this, but there's like a few hundred people. It wasn't a podcast, it was like a big like videography event. A guy came up to me and he was like, I've just bought I don't know nothing about cameras. I bought the F whatever, blah, blah, blah. He said, because of your recommendation. And I was like, I've never really like shot with it. And he's going to spend like 10 grand on a camera.
This is
awkward.
awkward.
I thought, this is terrible. Like Sony basically went, look at this. Like, tell us about how good these functions are. And a couple of the times I did it, I had to Google how to turn the camera on. I was like, how do I use all these things, all these buttons? Like, these are just, it's alien to me. I just want a red button and go, or a shutter button. But that's it. That's all. Like, it's as simple as that. Or your 3 main kind of controls that you have. I'd be happy with that. So all this kind of like tech, I was like, no. I did it because obviously it's like a prestige thing at the time. And then just went, no, I don't really want to do this.
What was his response when he heard that?
I just moved along. But yeah, I think the Leica thing's more genuine just because I'm not saying like it's cameras that I've used for like a few years now, and it's more of a brand thing. So it's not like, it's like any car could get you from A to B. It's like, why do you use, like I'm honest about the Leica stuff, and it's like sometimes maybe not the image is going to give you better than other cameras, especially when you put it down to Instagram size. But if you feel really good about it, it's like if you bought a racing bike or whatever, and it's like, this is quality, this is like a really good thing. I think that makes you kind of perform better on the day. And for me, it just fits in with those higher end weddings or whatever. I'd have guys coming up to me and being like, oh, can I have a look at this? Because they've got so much disposable income, and they want to buy crap that they don't need. So it's an in to like other weddings or whatever else. But yeah,
it's really good.
So we want to go and buy Leica?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do we get a discount code? You got this?
Gotta get. No. Yeah, I wish I did.
Just from a work and a aesthetic point of view, it's kind of similar. I think one thing I've always admired about your work is that you have a very kind of clear vision. It comes across that you have a clear vision.
Yeah.
Like you don't ever, in fact, I'm pretty sure you don't get sucked into any kind of trends or gimmicks of any kind of sort. It's like you have I can watch something and not know it's you, but know it's you.
Like a video wise, yeah.
Yeah, how soon into your kind of career as a wedding videographer did you kind of hone in on that style and that kind of awareness of this is the kind of stuff I'm going to create and I'm just going to stick to it? Because it's kind of
I've kind of done the same thing for years now,
but
it's stuff that I may take for granted.
Yeah,
but it is literally like there's no movement, or there may be like a little bit of kind of like the movement now from it being handheld.
Yeah. You mean that's movement from the camera? Like you're not moving?
Yeah, I'm not walking around with something or trying to do something like that. There may be a tiny bit of like movement.
There's movement in the frame from whoever's in front of you, but you're not actively moving.
No, I'm not actively moving. I think the ingredients of like the films haven't changed. Like I mean, going back to like I had sliders and stuff, and I look back on Vimeo and look at like stuff from 12 years ago, and everything is moving. So you kind of change that way, but for the most part it's just that solid. And even now when I go into an edit, I can surprise myself of like how quick certain things will take, and sometimes I'll think, oh, am I just rushing this, or am I just kind of like palming this off? It's like, no, it's because I know what to expect. There's a structure to films that doesn't need to change, without going too kind of technical about it. You kind of go, well, you have a bride getting ready in the morning. Which bit of audio works well over that? It's the dad saying nice things about her. So you have people arriving at a church or something else. What audio works well over that? Well, it's usually a vicar saying, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the church. And then in the middle, you have the vows. Everything has a place. And it's like, what can you put over the top of wedding vows? Well, you can't put the best men and the guests drinking, because that doesn't work. There's only really like the couple stuff. So like the couple stuff goes over the top of that, or like them walking down the aisle. So it's like everything just has a place. So you suddenly find that you can just.
I think it's also worth remembering that like your couples that you're shooting for now, they're booking you because of the work that they've seen.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what they want is what they've seen.
Yeah.
And I think so many sort of photographers and videographers fall into the trap of like trying to kind of become like like reinvent themselves all the time, like trying to push themselves creatively, which is like hugely admirable. But sometimes it's just
you can do it gradually. Like, I think you can always gradually. We've had like conversations today, like many, about having one eye on the trends for photography, and it's so easy to be left behind and suddenly not be relevant. So I think if you almost stay in touch with those trends, but not completely, there's people doing it really well. So this is like photography, I suppose. I don't really watch many videos because like I don't know, it's like a commitment, I think, to like sit and watch them, but the images are just there. And I think the people who seem to be doing well, who like bang on trend, you go, well, you're gonna have to adapt, because that's not gonna be, there's gonna be a time in a few years maybe where nobody wants movements or the blurry pictures, or something else is going to take over. And you could talk about this kind of all day. There's like the whole Greg Williams kind of fast, kind of dirty behind the scenes stuff. It's like, that looks great when they're celebrities, but then if they're not celebrities, or they're not the best looking people or whatever else, how does that kind of fit in? How does that work? So I think it's always just having, even if you're not doing it yourself, having one idea, like having one eye on what trends are happening, and just kind of almost keeping in touch with it. Maybe do it a little bit, unless it's stupid, you know, like smoke bombs or whatever. But like I think it's a thing of like, you can see, you kind of go, oh, it's knowing that was like 3 years ago. And the problem is if you're not recognizing that was 3 years ago, you know, or which is hard when you may, and God, I probably might fall into this category myself, but then if you look at someone and you go, they've got all the followers and they are getting all the love on their images, and people are going, this is amazing. But then you go, yeah, because those people have still been giving them all that love for the last like 3 years. So I think it's like a kind of thing of going, how do you just keep in touch? And I think that's where I always say about influence, and make sure that you're following like all like your Vogues and all those kind of things, because then that's what's on trend. And you might not like it, or you might think this is nothing like my style, but if you're like 3 stars behind, like it is like now everything is just like
it all filters down. It
is, yeah. I think it's just weird because I don't know whether because of COVID and everything on Sky News has gone to Zoom, so it's accepted that everything is more kind of like rough and ready. But it feels like that's what's happened with photography in the last couple of years as well. So there's two things. There's things being like, it doesn't matter if like horizon lines are straight. Everything can be like on the wonk. Like composition. So it's almost like composition doesn't matter. Like people will be weirdly, not in a good way. Like you can kind of do it in a good way.
Come on, Phil. Go on.
No. But just things that are like horribly wrong. But then I'm thinking, is that just me getting old and looking at this image and going, well, that's like half a person and you're in the wrong place and it's at a weird angle. But that's intentional, and that's kind of what people are going for. And then the whole motion blurry thing, which I'm still... It's the just fuck-ups. The fuck-ups, the 5% of the work that are fuck-ups, and people are just saying, because it's cool, and I've done it, and seen what the response is, but then I've done it because it was a fuck-up. And I've been in a dark church, and I forgot about they've been walking out, and I've not put the right setting on, and I've been still on like 100 ISO, and I've gone, oh fuck the blood, and I fixed it, and I've got the shots. But then 3 years later, I'll be like, oh, that's cool. But it's when you see people going back through, this is the danger now, it's when you see people going back through like the holiday photos from like 16 years ago of a picture of a camel or something that's totally out of focus and blurred, and being like, oh, I was just playing around with some just playing with some movements. And you're like, you weren't. It was a fuck up.
I saw something on Instagram today that had got like a huge amount of traction. It was somebody that had taken photos on like a 2004 Sony Cybershot, and it was like, God, they actually look quite cool. I'm like, why do they look cool? They would have looked awful when they were taken. We'd have slated them.
But trends.
Yeah,
trends. It is. Yeah. It's trends. There always has to be an argument.
Do you want to pull your cracker? Come on.
I do, yeah. I feel like it's a comfort blanket.
Hey! I'm going to put my hat on.
I can't bring myself to hold it in the middle.
Come on, Eagle.
Maybe I'm going to have to. I'll do what the kids do.
Do you want the joke, guys? Do you want the joke?
What did the kids? Yeah. They just got out.
Hold on, there we go.
Again?
I've been generous.
What's green, covered in tinsel, and goes ribbit, ribbit?
No.
Mistletoe. When you sat here reading it, you're like, everyone's surely going to get this. It's so obvious. And then hearing you'll go,
Why are Christmas trees so bad at sewing?
Because they always drop their needles.
Yeah.
Yes. On a roll. Igor, what have you got? Merry Christmas, Igor.
Merry Christmas. Is it this? Yeah, it is. Is it this? No, it's not that.
Have you ever pulled a cracker before?
This is Igor's first Christmas. Oh, I'm not going to put it on.
Here we go. What do snowmen wear on their heads? Ice caps.
Ice caps.
You said hats. You said hats. Brilliant.
Anyway,
where were we?
We were on trends.
You stopped me mid-rant. Like mid-rant.
We can stoke another one up. Do you want us to? What else grinds your gears, Phil?
This feels like a Phil therapy session. Is that what it
I
is?
don't know.
Just let it all out, Phil. Just let it all out.
I don't like
Let's
like Super 8 videos.
Okay.
I think people are gonna hate. I think couples are gonna hate them in 3 or 4 years' time. I get it. I do get it. But
I think that's why people love them in some ways. That it's the nostalgia of them, really.
yeah, but it's not because they never had a Super 8 video. They're only like 21, getting married. Like, I get it, but then I'm looking at like, I bought some old camcorders last year to put some old cassettes in and get the footage out. And now I'm looking at the cameras and being like, they'd be pretty cool. So I will buy into it, but then I might just stop myself like just beforehand. Do you know what I mean? Because you do see it and you see the love that it's getting, and you go, maybe I should try a bit of that. Polaroids, same thing. I've done it, and I've.
Don't you speak about my Polaroids?
I think there's a place. I think there's a market for all of it.
Yeah.
I genuinely do, and I think it's just about you finding what's true and genuine to you. And
I don't hate it that much. It's just...
whilst we're on the subject of gear a little bit, how has that changed over the sort of 10 years that you've been in the industry? How has it kind of affected your work and the how you kind of approach a wedding day? Obviously, you've talked already about how you've kind of stripped a lot of the kit
but
down.
I think every change that I've made has been for a good reason. Like the tech that I've brought in, it's given me something valuable. I don't know. So I shoot kind of like log now. So basically, all the color grading is done afterwards. So you're basically what you're videoing, almost like kind of like if you shoot like a raw photo.
It's really flat.
It's basically like a really flat kind of like boring grey image if you look at it like as it's being shot. But then you've got the ability to stretch that and kind of like add your own colours and do stuff with it. And I don't do too much to it. But when I started that, I think what I did was for about 3 years, just talking about log kind of footage, every wedding that started a season was a massive wedding. And I'd always go into it and be like, I don't know if anyone else does this, but you go into the first wedding of the year and you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I always went in being like, you're supposed to shoot log and colour grade it afterwards. But if you're not good at doing that, and basically seeing a flat grey image with no colour, and like everything kind of exposed, it's so hard to expose properly with it. But I'd still go into like every wedding at the start of the season doing it, and then try and colour grade it and be like, this looks absolutely terrible. And 3 weddings later, change it. So I think now one of the Leica that I have, you can preview that. You can shoot log, but you can put your colour grade. You can preview with your colour grade, which is amazing because I can see what I'm getting. But then if I want to change it, I want to change the exposure a little bit. I mean, with video compared to I think with a raw image, you can just go up and down and do whatever you want. But with video, you've probably got a little bit of wiggle room, a bit like a JPEG really, I suppose. You've got a little bit of wiggle room, but then I can just put the LUT and the colour on top of it and it works. So that's one thing about being able to do that. And it doesn't change how I work in the day. Like it's just there and I see a cool looking image. I don't know, that's probably one of many things. It's always gone minimal, but if minimal means that it's doing me like a disservice in whatever way, then I'll change it. I went minimal with the Leica Q, which is pretty much the same as like the X100s, the Fuji X100s. Little camera, fixed 28mm lens, and I photographed quite a few weddings, and I said before that was my only kit. I put some batteries in, and I was like, 28mm. That's all I'm going to use. And it was good, but then I recognised where the problems lied. The problems lied immediately when huge big room with just some tables in the middle, and the only way that I'm going to get people on those tables is by going sitting down with them and using the 28mm that way. It kind of probably makes you better in some ways, kind of doing that. So I've gone back weirdly, right? So I hated it for a while, the fixed 28. This is another thing, not related to anything really, but the whole kind of landscape portrait thing now, in that it doesn't make sense to shoot anything landscape anymore. And so I haven't, so for 2 years, I haven't shot a single landscape photo. If I'm shooting a wedding or anything else, I'll go and it's portrait. It didn't take long. I just went and went, everything's going to be this way now.
Yeah. I love a portrait frame now.
But what I found was that I suddenly fell in love again with the 28mm, because I used to have a 28mm that's quite wide, and my subject was in the middle, and I just had all of this like stuff either side that I had no use for. Soon as you flip that portrait, you suddenly realise that people are that way, and it's like, oh, this makes a load of sense.
Yeah.
So now, I'm like almost going back to just using that a lot more. So I do feel like I've got a perfect balance with 28 fixed and a 50mm for photos.
Yeah. I can remember my first probably year or two of galleries were all landscape.
Yeah.
I didn't even take a single portrait. Now I can't even imagine. I can't compute that.
Yeah. I think what I hate is that there's like incredible photographers, older photographers as well, who've been like pioneering and groundbreaking, and they're putting these wide landscape images on Instagram, but not realizing that they look shit on Instagram, and I've no doubt that if you looked at that on your Mac, you would be like, this is amazing, this is so good.
Or even printed, because so many times there's images that appreciate like so much more.
It's crap. Flip it, and you suddenly find out, I don't need any of this. You're going in closer. That's why I went from, I went to a 50 for photos, literally for the only reason that it's getting that little bit closer for Instagram. Just so you can see that a little bit more.
We just need Instagram to sort the ratio out, don't we, for portrait shots.
Fill the screen.
That's a rant for another time.
Yeah.
Any sort of like favourite weddings that you've come out with feeling like your heart is full and you're kind of like, yeah.
And then no. That's the question. Everyone's always like, what's the favourite place or what's the favourite wedding? And they're always different, obviously, but based on the people that you meet and the experiences and like who you went with, and like I've had tales where I've gone to like incredible places, but I've gone with the best mate, and I've been fortunate enough that I've done these with like, my wife's gone to loads and we've had like amazing experiences, but I've gone with mates of mine and we've done things, and that forms the experience. That forms like, and the people that you meet at the wedding, like there's always, absolutely my favorite thing is to say I met this group of people, or like I like celeb culture from the point of view of not being overawed by there being a person there, but other people's reactions and like how do people deal with this. I find that like fascinating. Like absolutely, but
from a sort of like documentary perspective, or
I just love it. I just love how like
giddy people get,
and crazy people get, and watching people like
it's just a person,
and it's good. I had this conversation last week with the bride in Italy, about like certain
at the
things.
Vatican,
about like certain things, but we were basically like people maybe at risk of losing the place at kind of like that wedding because the reaction to certain people. But that's a big deal for the couple. Like you don't want to be going in and being like, oh my God, it's, and I've done it. Like I've been at, what can I say? No, I can't really say. I've been at weddings where there has been someone famous and they've been married to someone famous and then got in a car with the photographer or the second shooter, and the second shooter's just gone like been like losing his shit and being like, you can't like, and you see them at the day and see them like uncomfortable, not being able to do the job. You're like, this is just people, right? It's cool. Like you go back and over, I'm sure like in years to come, you go, that was cool. Like I met this person.
Hung out with so and so and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but you're not really. They don't remember you. Like you remember doing whatever.
You got
like,
jobs to do.
Yeah, that's it. But I can't remember where we started. Jobs, best jobs.
Favorite
It's
wedding.
it's more experiences and remembering like that. Like
for me, it's more the idea of you coming out of that wedding, not necessarily where you've been, not necessarily the people that you shot with, but you coming out of that wedding and you just feel like, I love my job.
yeah, because they are. Or things happen. Like I had, I did one in UK this year, and I just like they were the happiest people. They were the happiest people ever, and you always immerse yourself into the wedding. And I remember the night before, I'd had a couple of drinks with them, and I was like, "This is great! Like I feel like these guys feel more comfortable with me." And I remember walking into the room at like the exact same time that they were pouring shots, but then they just turned on me, and then before I knew it, the entire room was just chanting my name to do shots. And I just thought, it's cool, and there's no way you couldn't do it, because like unless you didn't drink. But I was just like, I did it, and then everybody cheered, and it was just a moment. But I was like, if I hadn't been, you know, it's that thing of shooting a wedding from the outside looking in, or shooting it from the inside and just being like as much of part of the proceedings as you can be. Is good. So like, yeah, them, you certainly come away from so many just absolutely buzzing. You come away from others and you're not, you know, because you're not fed, you know. It could be those little those little things, which is
that
just
still
like
happens.
No, it's that's the thing, like talking back about the last thing I shot, how much you're looked after. Literally, you give that back in like you give it back so much more, you know. And like I was really, really looked after last week, but was open enough to talk to the bride about it and be like, you do understand that like I'm really appreciative of this, and you are going to get this back in, you know, I'm going to give this back so much more. But yeah, just the food thing is just another whole conversation. People just don't. It just doesn't enter people's brains sometimes. Not that they're being nasty or whatever, but they just don't. They're thinking about the wedding, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. You're amazing, man. No, don't worry, you're being amazing. You touch upon shooting video and photography initially. Have you ever done a hybrid? Have you ever done sort of like a wedding or even an elopement where you kind of like doing both?
Yeah, a couple of times.
Yeah. How did you find that? Because for me, that's...
So I did one years ago. And this ties into kind of another subject in that I did it because it was the deal breaker to get the job. So the bride was basically like, okay, being honest, we want you, but we also it's expensive, like where the wedding is, and we want a photographer, and we really want these group shots for family, and that's really important, but we can't afford both. And being like early days, or relatively early days, I was like, okay, that's an opportunity that I don't want to miss. So I was like, I'll do both. And you know, relatively small kind of wedding, maybe like 20 guests, and they were happy to work with me and go and do like their own thing and give me hours for like the couple shoots or whatever else. But I think it's recognizing that, and recognizing when, not just for hybrid kind of stuff, like if you see an opportunity, it's like, do it. You know, if it means, someone said before about driving to like another place, I think it was you guys, wasn't it? Like if you see, like if there's a place where you really want to shoot or whatever, offer them a free shoot. Do whatever it takes to get, if there's other opportunities come from it. But yeah, I did that. I've done it a few times, but I did one just after like lockdown when things started opening up again. I had about 3 weddings where, and it was weird because I think it was like Wales, Scotland and Ireland, and they were all like carbon copies where they basically went to a massive house with about 10 of them and stayed there for 4 days. And they got married in the house and then just got like they danced, they drank, and you can't help but be so involved in that. Like, you have to be like a massive part of the wedding. And a couple of them, I did the same thing, because they were just like, I think we spoke about this before, about you took opportunities maybe at the start of lockdown when people were prepared to like invest in you, and you were like, oh, well, I don't know if another job's going to come. So you may have took weddings that were like, I don't know, you wouldn't have taken like another time. So I kind of was like, you know what, I can do both. And they were pretty cool. Like, there's a bit of stress, but if they listen to what you're going to do, obviously it's not perfect, but as long as you know when they're going to get certain things, so you say, right, I may be able to photograph this, but it means that I'm not going to be able to video it. Like, and the couples that I did it for, they were like, whatever, we're sure you'll produce something for us.
Feels like it was the right kind of time to try that.
Yeah.
You know, smaller weddings.
Yeah.
You know, people like expectations.
It's a crazy
people just
thing
wanted
to do.
to have
it's
a good
crazy
time. It's a
thing to do. But I literally can just push a button on top of the camera and it flips between the two. So I photograph everything in black and white anyway, or with a black and white preview. So it's a good little thing to kind of like, I know I've definitely switched modes. Plus I'm going into portrait as well. So you hit the button, everything turns black and white, and you're like, oh, I'm in photo mode. So there's no kind of mistakes being made. But I think if you come up with like a little, preps is simple, right? Because you're just in one room. Ceremonies maybe a little bit more difficult.
You've made it easy on yourself in some ways. You've got your systems really, and that's what I love about it.
I wouldn't do it like.
Yeah, you're talking here. I think it's just your whole demeanor really, because you just come across as so relaxed.
It's easy, right?
Yeah.
So you try and.
But you do have your systems.
Yeah.
You do have your systems.
Cool.
Whenever I've heard your name, it's always been in the sort of like education circuit game, in terms of like workshops, courses, and stuff like that. How was that sort of transition into doing it? Yeah.
I think the first one was like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just, I think maybe at the time it was just the thing that you do a workshop, and that's what the next level of people do or whatever. So I thought I'll do a workshop. But then like people signed up for it, people came, and I think I did like 2 a year for like maybe like 5 years or something. And they're good. Do them obviously to make money. And I think what I found with the workshop was that I just had this like route, like it was the same. Like, that's what I said before, nothing has changed really. Like, it's the same. You could go composition, you do this, or like structure, like everything is pretty much the same. And so I found it really easy to just break it down into like sections. So yeah, I did that for like 5 years, and then we've spoke before, I did like the online course, which was like literally the best thing I've ever done, from a financial point of view, but it is kind of crazy. Like, it just messes with your brain that there's you know what it makes you realize is how many other people are doing what you do. Like, you just, and not in terms of, I'm thinking, okay, I think we've had like over 1,000 people have bought it in its like lifespan, the online course. But when they were doing the ads and you're getting like the figures back, and it's like, this has gone out to like 500,000 videographers or whatever, and you're like, really? Like, there's so many. You think you know how many other people are taking photos at weddings and doing video at weddings?
Oh, not scratch the surface.
Nah, it's just, there's so many. But I did an SEO one during lockdown as just a project. Like, I wasn't really bothered about it. Kind of, I knew it was never going to be as successful as the video one. It was just like a little thing to keep me busy. But I said something that I always keep going back to and always keep thinking about. And it's like, as long as you're just working harder than the guy on the next street, because there's always someone on the next street doing it. And if you think about it from like that SEO point of view, it is just literally putting hard work in and just writing and making sure that you're doing the right thing. And you think, well, if someone else is just doing that and putting that work in, they're going to be getting the jobs. You know, they're going to be getting forget about ability and forget about like the quality of it. They're going to be in front of you, or they're going to be the person who pushes you down onto page 2 or 3 or whatever. And then when you suddenly get 3 or 4 other people on the next street doing it, and you've took your foot off the pedal, you've suddenly become like, and as it gets harder for everyone, and some people start going, he's making, you know, X amount on a weekend. Like, I think we're probably going to see a surge in it now as well. Like you said, every year we seem to say so many more people are shooting weddings now. But when everything's getting harder, and it's going to get a lot harder still, I think people are just going to go, I can do this. And you're just going to... But there's I've always said there's a place for everyone, right? Not saying that from I don't care how many people do it. You know, everyone's got to keep you on your toes. Any
sort of like projects that you've got in mind for education stuff? Or?
I should do another course. Like, it's 4 years old now, and I've been thinking about it. I just don't know whether, like, it's a huge commitment.
It takes time.
Yeah, and I managed. I think the last one took me a month to make, I think, and I think I need to. If I do another one, it needs to be like 3 times the size, and it needs to do so many more things as well. So yeah, I think I should do that, but whether I just get to January and go, actually, I need to just like you said before, just look after yourself for a couple of months. I kind of think that's more important, like long term, like just reset for a couple of months, and you know what I mean. But then you've always got this work thing going on, haven't you? Like we never stop. So likelihood is I'll probably sit down for a week in January, chill out, and then start writing something. Yeah.
Where do you find your kind of traffic and inquiries kind of come through nowadays? I mean, we kind of talked at the very beginning about how there's this kind of like real mystery around you, and that we couldn't find a huge amount on you really, and it kind of just goes against the grain of, like, you've even touched on it yourself about, like, you know, likes and reach and you know, like, how do you get inquiries and
it's
be busy
a total mix
when
now.
You are, you know, you're kind of going against what the marketing signals say you should be doing.
No. It is. It's a total mix. I never used to get anything through social media, but then it started. So then I started going, okay, maybe I'll just keep this up because I'll continue to get these inquiries. But then it's weird where, you know, if you get like 100 followers on Instagram, and you know that 99 of them will be other people in the industry. So it's like, okay, you don't know that, you still got to keep on doing it. But it is genuinely, it's a mix. It's a mix of, it's never usually kind of like referrals from like previous brides who've told the mates or the sisters or whatever. Like every so often, that'll happen. But I always get the feeling that the weddings that I do, it's almost like they want to keep you to themselves. It sounds really weird, but I always get that they never.
I find that strange sometimes when you go to a wedding and you know, former bride or groom are there. You kind of feel like you've cheated on them a little bit.
Yeah.
You're there to shoot someone else's wedding. It's like, hi guys.
Yeah.
I'm with these guys now. You have that.
Usually we just.
I mean, it's totally fine. I'm just saying, like, there's a momentary thought in my mind where I'm like,
no,
it can be a bit strange.
I see it like that. Come here.
Yeah.
Oh, you give people hugs, do you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That sounds like you.
Ego hug.
Yeah, it's a mix. But I know that if you put effort into like the SEO stuff, it pays off massively.
Yeah.
I think I made a massive mistake in I put out in the original course the kind of the hack of basically just sending your couples the 5 questions. So what I did was I used to, and this is like a common thing now, but I'd be like, how do you guys meet? Why did you choose the venue? Tell us about your wedding. 5 things like that. And then I copy and paste all of their answers, and they would gush and gush and gush. Copy and paste their answers, set up a page, like a WordPress post, and just change the answers to include the venue. So it was like, instead of saying, why did you choose the venue? Why did you choose blah, blah, blah house? You know, why did you choose a blah, blah, blah house wedding? You know, in the title of the paragraph. And then I suddenly found that was like mega successful. But then I gave this away on the first course. So one of my questions was like, tell me about the proposal, all the gushy details in brackets. If you Google all the gushy details in brackets now, it just cancels itself out. You get thousands and thousands of wedding industry suppliers that have just took the same questions. So I'm like, like I did it and I said it and I was like, this works, and from the SEO course as well. But I'm like, nobody minds kind of copying things, whatever. Just don't like do it
word for word.
Don't do it like crazy to the extent. Like everyone's,
Blatant.
like I started off years ago and copied like some words. I got burned like within like the first year of me doing it. Like copied a parrot. Like I think it was on someone's contact page, like someone really like big in the industry or really cool in the industry, and it was something like, oh, we want to work with cool, creative, artistic couples or something. I was like, oh, that sounds good. I'll use that because nobody knows me. I'm like starting off at the bottom, and then straight away within a month, it was like, I've been outed on Facebook, and it was like, how dare you? You know, copied the website, and I was like, shit, that really like hammered home to me. So I'm like, I'd never have a go at anyone for like copying anything, but I'm just like, I have a bit of imagination. Like, do you need to put all the gushy details in brackets? I mean, I don't even know where I came up with that, but literally, if you Google it,
put your own spin on it.
If you Google it, you could have come up with any. That's not even one of the questions about the venue or anything. It's just an additional text question, and it's like absolutely everywhere. There's a video group. This is loose lips here. I won't name any names. Someone showed me a person in the industry their website the other day, and this guy had noticed that he was getting inquiries from like couples, but they were calling him like something else. And he's like, this is a bit odd. Like what's going on? And he looked on this other fella's website, and this guy had copied his website literally word for word. Like everything had been copied, but he hadn't changed the email. It was just a mail to link. Brilliant. So they were going to this other guy's website, inquiring to him, and it was going back to the original guy who had copied it off because he hadn't changed it. I was like, that's like next level.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't even know how you do that. How you'd go begin to like copy like the entire structure, but yeah, it's anyway.
What does the future look like for Philip White
when I grow up? I don't know. We said this before. You kind of go. I always thought there was something else. I always thought when I grow up, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then you hit a point and you kind of go, I don't know. Actually, maybe you just keep on doing this, or you want to do like passion projects, but then when the passion projects don't pay, it's hard, isn't it? Unless you specifically like allocate some time away and you say, I'm going to do this, but yeah, I don't know. I'll probably just keep on doing what I'm doing. But you never know. There's always that dream that you'll meet someone at a wedding and they'll be like, do you want to just come to Hollywood for 6 months and just
shoot
do
a
this?
blockbuster?
Yeah. But you never know. I don't know. I'm do you know what? Just keeping it simple. I've kind of reached that age now where I'm like, if I can keep doing this and just walk the dog and be at home and everything's just happy and good.
Yeah. And as long as the spark's still there and the buzz for shooting, which it clearly is, it shows in your work that it is. So
Phil and his slippers. I can see it already.
Man, I got slippers 2 weeks ago for the first time in my life. Game changer. Absolute game changer.
Have you tried one of those fluffy dressing gowns? The really big, thick ones.
Snoods. The snooze. Is it a snooty? Yeah, that's an image you don't. But yeah, I think that was about 2 weeks ago as well. Because we were doing this the whole family's got them, right? And it's like, no, we shouldn't put the heating on. I'm like, you've got to put the heating on. Yeah. Put the heating on. So we spent like 3 days just being like, no, we'll put these things on. Now they're just discarded. Like,
and the heating's on.
The heating's on. Yeah.
Well, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you here and to chat and to kind of hear some of your tales and stories. Always enjoy chatting to you.
You should write a book.
Good. Do you reckon? I started making notes of stories, wedding stories.
You should actually write a book.
You know, the actual really crazy things that people tell you about and that have happened to yourself. It's just titles. But I always thought, like the doctor one, the guy who just like,
this is going to hurt.
Yeah, but I think if you got enough of them from people, there's some brilliant ones. Yeah.
Weddings are a good vessel, aren't they, for a story?
Yeah. Make a good film.
If you
I know what you're going to ask. I know what you're going to ask. You're going to be really disappointed. Go on.
If you travelled back to...
Oh, no, okay.
What did you think he was going to ask?
I thought he was going to ask me about Stranger Things, and I was I watched the first series when it came out, and I've not watched anything since. But.
It's all right. I'll save you that. Are you more into series or films, by the way?
Series.
Serious?
Yeah. Just that weird position where you always have to find something that everybody likes.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? If I'm allowed to watch the football once or twice a week, I'm happy with that. But
yeah.
What's on the recent inspiration kind of?
No,
they've got to be gritty kind of crime,
gritty
crime things. Slow Horses, that's a new one.
I love Slow Horses.
Yeah,
it's good. Gary Oldman's.
Yeah,
that's new season just started.
Yeah, that's a better. Can't wait for that. Maybe tonight I'll start.
Nice.
Yeah. Go on.
You can ask your question.
Yeah. 14 years ago.
Yeah, if you travelled back to 14-year-old Phil, knowing what you know today, what advice would you give him?
Bitcoin. Absolutely.
He's stolen that one.
No. As soon as he said, I was like, I'd go with that. Yeah.
That's it. Genuinely is.
No,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Yeah. Think about it every day.
And how can people find you? What can they do to check you out?
Instagram. Yeah, pretty much Instagram.
It's Mr. Philip White, isn't it?
White, yeah. That sounds so wanky, doesn't it? But it's not. Where else do you go? I don't like dots or underscores or.
Yeah. It works.
Yeah.
It really works. No, seriously, thank you you so much for giving us your time and your stories. Phil's stories. That would be the book.
Stories with Phil.
Seriously, we really appreciate it, and a lot has come out from this conversation, and I'm sure people will appreciate your honesty and what you have to say within the industry, and just keep at it because you got a lot to give.
Thanks, man.
Ready for another beer?
Oh yeah. I've not finished this one yet.
Right. Thank you very much, Phil. Loved it.
Cheers, guys.